Hello folks, this is Solo speaking. You're listening to another video for Teamfight Tactics. This is some more gameplay footage taken from set 15 very early on the public beta environment, the PBE. And this is some footage provided by Antisocialmunky. You can tell because I don't have this background stage on the PBE. This is the one that has the little anime bunny characters or whatever. In this game, we're going to be seeing Antisocialmunky play a crew team composition, which is a reroll team composition. That's probably not surprising if you've seen any of the other videos I've done that have been supplied by Antisocialmunky. He is kind of the king of rerolling on our little TFT group because he almost always plays reroll builds of some kind, and he is quite good at playing them. The crew is a reroll team composition. And it's one that's based on getting a whole bunch of 3-star units, and then you kind of build out the rest of the team around your 3-star units. Early on, the two key units are Malphite and Sivir. He does have a Malphite in his store here, which he's going to pick up. He also has picked up another crew unit, which is Shen, but Shen is not typically the early unit to play around. I would say that if you're looking to start a game of TFT here in set 15, I would not suggest playing into crew unless you get some early Sivirs. You really don't want to play this team composition unless you're getting Malphites and Sivirs early on, because they are the two 1-cost units that you would play on a crew build. And they're the two units that you're going to look to 3-star first. So if you just have no Sivirs whatsoever, which is the case here, I would not suggest playing this team composition because you kind of need Sivir, like Malphite's your tank and Sivir's your damage dealer, as we will see as we get through here. But ASM decided he was going to kind of force this team composition anyway. First augment is Silver, and out of the different options here, he's going to end up taking Chaotic Evolution. What this happens is every time you star up a champion, they gain additional stats on a permanent basis. So this is, again, typically seen as being a reroll augment because, again, it's every time you star up a unit, you get additional stats. Well, in a normal team composition, you're only going to star up units once from 1-star to 2-star, but in a reroll team composition, you're going to star up your units twice because they're going to go from 1-star to 2-star and then to 3-star. So they'll have the chance to get those stat bonuses 2 different times. All right, and it looks like right now ASM is just selling everything except the Malphites and the Shen. This means he basically has nothing whatsoever on his board. He just has Malphite, who is a tank, and Shen, who is also a tank. So they're not going to do any damage, and he has not pulled his component anvils, and he also has not pulled his power-up. He really should at least pull his power-up and try to pick out something, I guess, for Malphite here. Because remember, you can always you can remove your power-up and switch it to a different champion if you want to with the power-up remover. But there's not much of a reason to avoid using it whatsoever if you haven't done so. One of the fun mechanics, if you're new to the set, this is the new set mechanic, is you get these power-ups and you can give them to units, and they're basically like the anomaly from set 13, except that they're kind of better because you get them from the start of the game and you can move them around and change them if you want. Okay, so as I said, we're doing a crew game here. And what exactly does the crew do? You might notice that it's kind of a weird look over there on the interface. It has like the crew has 2 units in, that's the Malphite and the Shen. By the way, ASM still does not have a Sivir on 2-2, and he's playing crew, which is just wild. But you can see it says 0 times and then 3 stars, and then it has 1x over there. So what exactly does this trait do? Well, it kind of does 2 things. You have the base version of the trait, and that trait gives you 5% attack speed and 5% health on your crew units for each crew unit fielded. Looks like he's also going to start pulling some items here off the component anvils. Let's see, what's he going to pick? The glove, and then what else? The bow? Waiting to see what he picks here. I can't remember. I have watched this game, but I can't remember. Oh, okay, he ended up picking the vest because he wanted to make gargoyles. Okay. I don't think that those were quite the items that ASM was looking for. And now he has put a Jin on his board to try to get some kind of damage, but you can see it's not going great here. Anyway, so back to the crew, as I said, the base thing is it's 5% attack speed and 5% health for each crew member fielded. And so with 2 units in, that's 10% health and 10% attack speed. Now, the other thing it does is it gives additional benefits based on how many 3-star units you have. And at the moment, that's 0. But for every 3-star crew unit, oh, I should be clear, it's every 3-star crew unit you have, not every 3-star unit. So for every 3-star crew unit that you have, it gives additional benefits to the team, and I'll start talking about them when he starts hitting some 3-star units. That said, so far, ASM really does not have anything, and he's just kind of getting pasted by these other team compositions because he's kind of forcing crew here. Anyway, his past self is helpfully highlighting what some of these bonuses do. Yeah, you can see when you get one 3-star unit, you get 1 XP per reroll, and crew unit odds never drop with player levels, and then you get better benefits as the game goes on. There are 5 crew units. You have Malphite and Sivir, who are one cost units. You have Shen, who is a 2-cost unit, Ziggs, who is a 3-cost unit, and then TF, who is a 5-cost unit. So you have 1, 1, 2, 3, and then 5. Interesting pattern there. But it's clearly a reroll trait based on how many of those units you have. Anyway, ASM, he did lose all those rounds, but he's not first to pick because someone else had Young and Wild and Free. There's also a spatula on this carousel. Crew is not a makeable trait with a spatula, but he maybe could have done something interesting with this. In any case, though, he takes the sword. That's for an Infinity Edge. Infinity Edge is seen as being one of the core items on Sir. Oh, no, maybe he does Spear of Shojin with this. I can't remember. He doesn't have a lot of uses for tiers until he gets Ziggs later on in his build. So we'll see what he ends up doing with this. I think he finally comes across a Sivir. No, he still does not have a Sivir here on his board, but at least he did hit the 2-star Malphite. He's going to end up playing a Caitlyn. And you might be wondering, why is he putting all these snipers on the board? Well, Sivir's traits, who he still has not found yet, by the way, and I can't believe he hasn't played... I can't believe he's playing crew with no Sivirs on 2-5. Sivir is a sniper. All right, so now it's time to pick a power-up, and ASM has chosen the one that gives Malphite scaling max HP, max vitality. I believe he gains something like 30 health at the beginning of each round, and then he gains an additional, I think it's 10 health every 10 seconds that pass in a fight. So a good scaling augment. Again, this isn't something that would be good on a unit that like you're going to, like on a 4-cost tank, this wouldn't be particularly useful because let's say you're playing a 4-cost tank like, I don't know, Leona, who's a 4-cost Bastion in this set. Like if you pick that up on like 4 or 5, it's not really going to be very relevant because you're not going to have enough time to stack it up. But it's going to be quite good if you get someone like Malphite on the board early and then start stacking. But like ASM could have put this power snack on him on 2-1 and then been stacking for like 3 additional rounds. By the way, he still doesn't have a Sivir yet. Still no Sivir on the board. Okay. So yeah, that's a thing. And it looks like he's going to pick up the Rakan here. So early on, a crew board typically will look to play through Sniper trait because normally you're playing Sivir and normally you'd be crazy to play this trait if you don't have a Sivir on the board yet. But Sivir's traits are crew plus Sniper. So oftentimes you'll pair with an early Jhin or an early Caitlyn, or you can also pair with an early Gnar. Gnar is also a 1-cost Sniper. When this set first went on PBE, that's kind of what people were doing, is they were rerolling for Sivir and also rerolling for Gnar, because they're both 1-cost snipers, but people have kind of gone in a bit of a different direction since then, and at least on the version of PBE that ASM was playing, again, PBE patches like every single day, so it changes constantly. People were playing not so much through the Sniper trait, but people were more playing through one of Ziggs' traits, which is Strategist. And that'll come to the fore later on, but that's probably why he's not picking up some of these units. For that matter, he still hasn't picked up, he still hasn't seen Gnar here either. This is just kind of wild to go the entirety of stage 2 without seeing a single Sivir while you're trying to play the crew here. So this is very much forcing the crew. Again, I would not recommend doing this in a normal game. If you're just not seeing early Sivirs, do not play the crew. It's very unlikely to go well in your games. Isn't even really seeing Malphite. So this is the end of stage 2. ASM has 3 Malphites and 1 Shen and 0 Sivirs. Like, this is an awful opening to play the crew from. Because, you know, as a reroll trait, you need to hit these. And, alright, we'll see what he ends up doing with this bow. That could be a Rage Blade. It could also be the Last Whisper. Alright, he finally gets a Sivir. Hooray! Sivir finally pops from the minion round on 2-7. And we'll just have to see what he ends up doing with that. Also got a cloak and a... Okay, the bow is useful. The cloak and the belt are not quite as useful. Anyway, there's a Malphite, so that's nice. And then, let's see if he's going to roll here. He has the best... there is a Ziggs here. But whether he wants to play the Ziggs early is another question. All right, he's going to pass on the Ziggs for right now, which is probably correct because Ziggs is kind of expensive to play at this stage of the game. Still not really finding the Sivirs thus far. He is finding some more Malphites, though. So that's not terrible. He is rolling a little bit low here. All right, there finally hits them. You can also see the little stats popping up here. So he does finally get the 2-star Sivir, and he also gets the Malphite. Oh, I forgot the other thing about his augment. I forgot you actually get the benefits multiple times because like the Malphite on the board started up to 2 stars and got a benefit, and then the Malphite on the bench also started up to 2 stars and got a benefit. So you can get those benefits multiple times with the unstable evolution. I forgot that that happens. That's why it's also so good for reroll builds. All right, so Sivir is out there tossing boomerangs, and can ASM actually win this round? Okay, he actually ended up winning 2 rounds in a row, which is kind of shocking because his board was not in a particularly strong place. But at least he finally has Sivir on the board, so he has like the basis of a crew set up. Second augment is gold, and none of these seem like they're amazing. I mean, like quiet quitting sounds good for the next 3 player comments. You can't use your shop, but that's not really good for a reroll build. You kind of need those shops to be rerolling. You need to see those shops or else like you can't keep building out your board. So he's going to take Best Friends, which is gives the benefit to units that stand next to each other. They gain armor and attack speed for standing next to one another. And he might as well just play the extra Malphite on the board here. So yeah, 6 Malphites and 3 Sivirs. Sivirs, again, is a sniper. Snipers deal more damage to units that are further away. This trait has been in pretty much all, not all, but like a whole bunch of TFT sets. Very basic trait. Sivir also has a very straightforward ability. She tosses, when her mana bar fills up, she tosses out a boomerang, and it deals damage on the way out and on the return trip. Most of her damage comes from her boomerang, not from her auto attacks. So she is essentially classified as an AD caster, which means she has the same mana generation as the mages in this set. And you would do well to build items that are good on AD casters. So like Infinity Edge is good because you want her cast to be able to crit. Shojin is also good so that she will cast more often. I've heard that like Infinity Edge, Last Whisper, Shojin is pretty good on her. Like Rageblade's not terrible. I would probably just have the Rageblade on her. It's not great because she's not that auto attack focused as a champion. As I said, most of her damage comes from her ability, not from her auto attacks. But I would probably still have the Rageblade on her because Kate's not really doing much of anything in these fights. And there is a natural synergy between Rageblade and Shojin. They're often good to pair together just because Shojin gives you more mana per auto attack and then the Rageblade gives you stacking attack speed. So you auto attack more often. But that's a kind of a minor thing. ASM did lose that last round. You can see he's one of the weakest people in the lobby right now. It's kind of shocking he won the 2 rounds in a row. There's also a Kate in the store, but you're noticing he's not picking up the Kate, and that's because he doesn't really intend to play through the Caitlyn long term. It's not that he missed this unit, it's that he's valuing being over 50 gold more than having a Caitlyn here. I would probably have picked this up anyway, just because like having really weak board strength is something that always ends up bothering me. But like if you're more interested in econ, you can make a good case to not play units that are not going to be on your final board. And you can see these fights are not going very well at all. A lot of these boards are much stronger than his board, and he is very far behind where you'd want to be if you were playing the crew. Like you'd want to be getting close to 3-starring the Malphite and the Sivir, and like he's not even remotely close on either of these right now. One good thing about being low health, you do get first pick, so he's going to go ahead and grab the Rise with the sword here, so that's going to allow him to make Infinity Edge. As I said, Infinity Edge, Shojin seem like very core items if you're going to be playing through the Sivir, and that Rise will also sell for 4 gold, so that's pretty nice as well. Basically, ASM just desperately needs to hit more Sivirs and more Malphites, and of course he wants to pick up Shens as well, because he is trying to 3-star all of his crew units, because he gets additional benefits every time that he 3-stars a crew unit. But he has not really been hitting thus far, and I wouldn't say this game is going especially well up to this point in time. He also still has the double Malphites on the board, which is not quite what you want, but at least he's now starting to see some Sivirs, finally starting to see some Sivirs. He also could potentially play a Protector unit on the board, yeah. So this will put Protector trait in play for Malphite. Protector is one of the tank traits in this set. There's actually, I think, 4 tank traits in this set, which is a little bit confusing, trying to keep all of them straight. Protector trait provides a shield when the unit, I think it's when they hit 50% health, they put a shield on themselves, and I think the nearest unit, and they gain durability while they have a shield on them. It's I don't think it's one of the better scaling tank traits, but I believe there's a number of Protector units that you can re-roll, if I'm remembering this set correctly. Now, in this particular round, he comes up against Darius, and you can see what happens. This is a Darius-based board. In this particular PBE patch, Darius was super strong, And Darius just jumps around dunking people. Darius basically has the same ability he had in a couple of the earlier sets. I think set 9, which was the when he had Noxus trait, and he would jump around dunking people. And I think set 3, he had the same ability as well. But like he basically uses his execute from normal League of Legends on somebody. And then he, if he kills them, he resets and uses it again. So he was just getting a whole bunch of resets and just dunking people left and right. All right, well, there's 2 Shens. That's nice. Okay, so starting to get a few more hits, up to 6 Sivirs, up to 7 Malphites, also to start the Shen. And notice the unit that ASM has chosen to play in the backlines. He's picked up a Janna. Janna has 3 traits in this set. She has Crystal Gambit, which we're not going to see in this. And by the way, also hits the Malphite, so that's pretty nice. Did hit the 3-star Malphite. As I said, Janna has 3 traits. She has Crystal Gambit trait, which is the like the cash out trait. He's also going to be able to use another ability on Sivir. This is the second power up. You get a second power up on 3/6. It's going to take the ignore enemy armor, which makes sense because he has no armor shred on his board right now. But anyway, picked up the Janna, so Janna has Crystal Gambit trait, which we're not going to see in this game. Also has Protector trait, so we'll put that in play for the Malphite. And it's kind of interesting that a backline support unit has the Protector trait. Then also has the third trait, which is Strategist, and that's a trait we're going to be seeing. Also, by the way, there were 2 Ziggs in his shop that round. I would have picked up the Ziggs because he does want to... Ziggs is the next crew unit in. I would have probably picked that up, even though it would have been costly from an econ perspective, because he is going to want to hit these Ziggs later on. And Ziggs is almost certainly the next unit that goes in on this board. But he's going to have to hope those Ziggs come back again. So as I said, Janna's interesting because you get this backline, you get this tank protector trait on a backline unit, which is weird, very unusual. But she also has strategist trait, which is very useful, and it's going to be synergized with the Ziggs that we're going to see later on, because Ziggs also has protector trait. So that's why Janna was favored here, because this board's going to play into strategist trait later on. All right, so there is another Sivir as well, and just needs a few more. Is he going to... Wow, still passing up the Ziggs. Wow, could have had Ziggs 2-star already. That is surprising here. Now, you might notice his XP bar is going up, and you might be like, what the heck is going on? Why is his XP bar increasing? Well, the reason for that is that once you get a single crew unit 2-starred, then you start getting 1 XP from each reroll. So yeah, once you get a single crew unit to 3-star, you start gaining 1 XP per reroll. You also get a secondary benefit, which is the odds to find crew units do not go down as you level. So one of the problems with leveling in a reroll team composition is always that it actually gets harder to hit your units as you level. You can see his past self was just highlighting that. So normally if you hit level 6, the odds to hit 1-cost units go down. But once you have a single 3-star crew unit on the board, that doesn't happen for the crew units. So he maintained the same odds to see Sivir, even though he had leveled to level 6. So that's really nice. It makes it a lot easier to hit your units. So even though he was level 6, he was still seeing the, I think, level 5 shop odds in order to get the Sivirs on his board. Anyway, he finally finds Ziggs. Again, I think passing up all those Ziggs earlier was kind of a mistake there, but Ziggs does come back, fortunately, and now Ziggs can go on the board. So with 4 crew units on the board, now ASM is getting 20% additional health on his crew units and 20% additional attack speed, which is also going to be really, really nice. Ziggs is also going to put Strategist trait in play. Now, Strategist trait was in some of the other sets. Also set 9, but a lot of inspiration from set 9 in this set, from what I'm thinking at, because Strategist was a trait in that set as well. And I mentioned before how like Darius has the same ability from set 9. Kale has the same ability from set 9. I guess they really liked that set when they were designing this one. But anyway, Strategist trait, very similar to what it was when it was in the previous set. Strategist trait gives a shield at the start of combat to the units in the front row, or front 2 rows, and it gives damage amp to the units in the back 2 rows. Strategists gain triple the benefits. So I don't have the exact numbers in front of me here, but it's pretty straightforward. Units in the front rows get a shield, units in the back rows gain damage amp, and then the strategist units themselves gain triple the benefit. So Ziggs, and this is going to be playing deeper into strategist trait, which is a 2, 3, 4, 5 trait, as you can see on the interface right there. So this is going to be playing deeper into that trait, and Ziggs will take over as the other carry as this game goes along. Basically, Sivir is your early game carry, Malphite's your early game tank. As the game goes on, Ziggs starts to take over as the other secondary carry. And you can put AD items on Sivir, and then you put AP items on Ziggs, and it seems to work out reasonably well. It's pretty straightforward. If you need more tank items, you can start putting them on Shen, because Shen is also a tank. He has the Bastion trait, which is not on the board right now, and that gives everybody armor and magic resistance on the team, and I think Bastions gain more. Ziggs is kind of funny. His auto attack tosses out a little bouncing bomb, and then when his ability fills up, he tosses out a bigger bomb that explodes. But it's kind of hilarious seeing his normal auto attacks toss out the little bouncing bombs. Pretty silly that he has that. Nice little animation there. And they will hit the first target. The auto attack bombs will explode on the first target hit. Regardless of who he might be trying to target, they will hit the first target that he throws them at. So it's not a bad thing to have some MR shred on your team, because Ziggs is going to spend a lot of time hitting tanks with his auto attacks, and he's probably going to want some MR shred for that. All right, we have another carousel here. Let's see what ASM decides to take. He has a glove sitting on his bench, so he might want to make Jeweled Gauntlet with that. Let's see if that's the direction he goes. That is the direction he goes. Makes a lot of sense. Although I suppose he also could try to take the 2 gloves and make a Thief's Glove, although I would probably do the Jeweled Gauntlet for Ziggs, because he's going to be getting additional damage amp from the Strategist trait, so the ability for his bombs to crit would be pretty nice. But let's see what he ends up doing, because I did not end up playing this game. I am just watching the reroll footage here. Okay, so in addition to that, I mentioned that he has now gotten 2 2-star crew champs on the board. He has Sivir 3-star, also has Malphite 3-star, and indeed, there's the Jeweled Gauntlet. So once you have the pair of 2-star crew units, then you get the secondary benefit, which is 1 free reroll per round. Again, the first one is probably the most important one, because you get the every time you reroll, you gain XP, and you also get the shop odds not going down as you level. But getting a free reroll per round is, of course, very, very nice. That's the value of a gold augment right there. What's that? Trade sector, which has been an augment like for ages and ages. It gives you 1 free reroll per round, and that's been a gold augment forever. So it basically gives you the value of a gold augment, 2 additional gold essentially per round. All right, well, here's that Darius board again, and look, Darius is a dunking people. Yep, jumping around dunking people, and yeah. That board looks very, very strong. It's win streaking. This was a board that was very popular in the patch version that was played here. You would basically just reroll for Darius and reroll for Jace as well. And you just play Supreme Cell, which is one of Darius's traits, along with playing a bunch of heavyweight units. So you'd have like Kaisa and Darius and Jace as your carries, and you would just try to 3-star the Jace and the Darius. It's been eating some nerfs since this game was played, but it's still pretty strong, and it's definitely going to be a playable comp when the set comes out. If you hit like an early Darius, then it's pretty worthwhile to play in that direction. ASM's board looks like it's starting to get there. He's now up to 6 Shens, and so the biggest thing he needs to find is more Ziggs. He needs to get Ziggs up to 2 stars, and then he wants to find some more Strategist units, because he is looking to play through that. He also wants to get 1 more item on the Malphite. Malphite, remember, has been scaling up on bonus health every single round, thanks to Malphite's power-up. But yeah, it looks like he still doesn't have quite enough against some of these boards. And one of the big issues for ASM is his early game was just so weak that he's lost a tremendous amount of health here. He's all the way down on 17 HP. So it's not looking great at this point in time, especially with him having 1 Ziggs. I mean, he really needs to hit 3-star Ziggs for this board to be viable. He has 1 Ziggs at the end of stage 4. It's really not what you want. It's really not what you want. Let's be honest here. So he'll go ahead and use his free reroll. And he does find a Rise, so that's pretty handy. And you can see he's actually going to sell the 2-star Caitlyn. And fortunately, he does hit the 2-star Ziggs, thank goodness. He's going to sell that. And now he's going to put the Rise on the board, because that gives him another rank of Strategist. And now he needs to find Jarvan, who is the remaining Strategist unit. I believe 4 Strategist gives you 10% damage amp for the team, and then 30% damage amp on the Strategist units themselves. So that's definitely going to make Ziggs stronger. He can also make another item on Ziggs here. Let's see what he's going to pull. It looks like is he going to do the tier for Shojin? Yep. That makes sense. So the Rage Blade also has pretty good synergy with the Shojin. I mentioned that before. Now he's rolling it down. Remember, he does get XP every time he rerolls, so this is not as silly as it might sound. He really needs another Shen for his board to scale up here. He did find another Zigg, so that's pretty good. He's had good luck at hitting these Ziggs, and now he's all the way up to 7 Ziggs. That is a good streak of luck on hitting the Ziggs. Cannot count on that every time. Oh, he's going to do Archangel. Oh, wow. Okay. He did Archangels. I thought he was going to do the, I think Shojin would have been better here because you just want Ziggs to cast, especially if you've made the Rage Blade. I think Shojin's better here. Not that Archangel Staff is bad, but like the synergy between Rage Blade and Shojin is pretty strong. I think that would have been better here. But anyway, and then he made the Thieves Glove on Shen, which makes a lot of sense. All right, so this fight is pretty close. Can he win this one? And no, he cannot. And ASM goes down to 2 HP. So he's on his last life here. He basically has to win out. He has to win every single round from here or else he's out of the game. The good news is he hits the Shen and then he hits one more Ziggs. And so he is on 8 Ziggs here. And he did hit the Shen. So with hitting the Shen, he now has 3 3-star units in for the crew. And that ends up being a really big deal because he's unlocked the next bonus for the crew. When you have 3 3-star crew units, the ship starts firing. I think the logic here is that you're supposed to be on like a ship of some kind, and basically it starts dealing damage on its own. Think of traits from past sets where the trait kind of does damage on its own. That's what's happening now. Now the bad news is he's up against this Darius board. This is the win streaking board. Fortunately, the Darius has been 3-starred, so there's a very real chance that the game could have just ended right here. Fortunately, Darius kind of got caught on the Shen, who rolled pretty good items, and then he got caught on the Malphite. If the Darius had turned and ulted the backline, his whole board would have just died instantly, but ooh, okay. The Darius got stuck on the tanks. Thank goodness, or that would have just been the end of the game right there. If the Darius had just turned and ulted the Sivir, which almost certainly could have happened, then that just would have been the end of it right there. All right, well now Jarvan pops up, and Jarvan can go on the board for 4 Strategist. So the Ziggs is going to be out, and the Jarvan's on the board. And ASM has like very, very belatedly gotten his board together. This is the build he was playing. Also, he definitely needs to have someone standing next to the Ziggs. One of these units cannot get the best friends benefit. Should probably be the Janna. Yeah, it looks like the Janna was the one who drops it because you don't really care about extra attack speed and extra. What is it? I think it's extra health and extra armor you get from best friends, something like that. And he doesn't really care about either stat. Janna's just in there as a trait bot. She's just providing protector and strategist. She's not really doing anything in these particular fights. But yeah, just needs to hit that one last Ziggs, and then ideally get another item for the Malphite, because Malphite had that leftover sword, but definitely, definitely not really necessary. Can find something a lot better there. But that board was weaker. I mean, he kind of hit the strongest board in the lobby, which was that Darius reroll build, and fortunately was able to beat the Darius. So if he can beat that board, he can probably beat the other boards, and hopefully he can hit the 3-star Ziggs before he cycles back to that board again. All right, so out of this, is there a Ziggs on this carousel? There is not a Ziggs on this carousel, but there are some good items. In particular, the Ionic Spark would be really nice because Ziggs spends a lot of time hitting frontline, and you really do want a way to magic resistant shred that front line for Ziggs. So this will be a nice item to slap on the Malphite, and it's also on a 4 gold rise, so that'll help get additional money to reroll for that last remaining Ziggs. He really does need to hit this last Ziggs here. And okay. I would say ASM was a little bit lucky in rolling for all of these units. He kind of went from no Ziggs up to like a ton of... Oh, wait, what? He rerolled it into Spirit... What? Wow, okay. I'll just say I wouldn't have done that. Wow, okay. The odds that he was going to get some... Now, Spirit Visage is a very useful item on Malphite. It's probably one of the best possible items he could have gotten from Malphite. But, like, that so easily could have gone into a completely useless item. I mean, what if that rolled into, like, a Kraken Slayer? What in the world would he have done with that? That is a very, very risky move. Because the Ionic Spark legitimately had real value for his board here. I'm very surprised that he looked to make that play. I would not have done that. Very, very easily could have gotten a completely useless item there. All right, well, Ziggs gets off a great bomb, and this is a close fight, but looks like Ziggs clutches it out. Now that Ziggs is 3-starred, ASM needs to take the power-up off Sivir and move it to Ziggs. I think one of the power-ups has to stay on Malphite. I think it's pretty clear one of them needs to stay on Malphite. But he really, really, really should move the other power-up to Ziggs. Ziggs is getting 4 strategists, so he gets, I believe, 30% damage amp. He's also a unit that's a 3-cost 3-star. Sivir's a 1-cost 3-star. And Sivir doesn't even have Sniper trait in anymore. He had to take that out. So there is no reason to have the power-up snack on Sivir at this point in time. Yes, her extra ability is giving her armor shred, but like you saw, Ziggs did more damage than Sivir in that fight. And Ziggs didn't even have the power-up. Anyway, here's the Darius board again. So let's see what happens here. Darius, at the moment, is trying to dunk Shen. Fortunately, he hit Shen while Shen had the Bloodthirster shield. So Darius has not gotten a single reset in this combat yet. Not even one. All right, and then Darius just got stuck on tanks the entire time and was not able to get a single reset. And yeah, that board does fall off if Darius can't get the resets. Can't get the dunk resets. Of course, it's that other player's fault for having Darius mispositioned. Darius should have been positioned away from the Shen and the Malphite. It could have easily been on the other side. Over there by the Ziggs, potentially looking to dunk him. So that's a bit of a misposition on that other player's fault. Now ASM's looking for another unit to play here. Big options are he could look to play a Bastion unit, which would give his whole team armor and magic resistance, or he could also look to play a Sniper so that Sniper trait will be in place for Sivir. I think either one of them would be a pretty justified decision here, but ultimately it's going to just be whether he wants like another damage dealer or if he wants more frontline here. And yeah, he's going to pull another item, so let's see. Again, Ionic Spark feels like it would be pretty good in this situation. Nope. Does not seem to want the Ionic Spark. Okay, I guess he's determined not to play through the Ziggs, which I think is maybe a mistake here. But taking a frontline item makes sense because the, what is it called? The Adaptive Helm can go on another, can switch over to a backline unit. And Rise is the obvious person to put this on. So yeah, there we go. Get good use out of that particular item. And now he's going to put a Jinx on the board. And now Sniper trait is back in play for Sivir. So that will definitely help Sivir in terms of her damage output. It seems pretty clear to me that you would do better to have Ziggs being your main carry. If you're gonna play 4 strategists, then play through your strategist 3-star, not through your Sniper 3-star. But it does show that there is some flexibility in terms of how to build a crew board. You can look to go deeper into the Sniper route. You can also go, as you said, the strategist route, as ASM's done here. And there are some different options. So anyway, he's going to use his free reroll. And all right, he's going to pick up the Varus as the 5-cost Sniper. That's a little bit fortunate to hit that unit. And Varus is, of course, a good unit to play on this board here because he's a 5-cost. 5 costs are always good to play. And in fact, he was pretty overtuned in the PBE patch that was being played by ASM in this particular game. Well, I thought he was going to use the power-up remover there for a second, but did not actually do that. So anyway, there are only 2 other players in this lobby remaining, and this one's getting pretty tight here. We're back to the Darius player, and the Darius player did reposition this time. But in this round, and look, now Darius is getting dunks. Darius is dunking the back lines. Can he get on the Ziggs? And it looks like he does kill the Ziggs, but this time the Sivir is still alive. And now Sivir is going to have to carry the back end of this fight, and it looks like Sivir was able to do so. Pretty close fight. Got to the Ziggs, but Sivir was still alive. And fortunately now had the Sniper trait in from having Varus on the board as well. So again, a good example of why it's really important to have 2 carries on your board. You really do want to have multiple threats. One thing you could do here is you could take out the Jarvan and play Cassante, which would put Wraith trait in play. And like you could also ditch the Janna and just drop protect. You could drop down to 3. Actually, you would take out Janna and you'd play the Cassante, which would give you another rank of, which would maintain Protector trait and put Wraith trait in play. But that would then drop down to Strategist 3. Arguably, maybe a better move to play Strategist 3 with the Cassante, because Janna's doing very little in these fights. And that would, as I said, put Wraith trait in play for Varus. But he opts to maintain the Strategist 4, which is justifiable. But again, not having Ziggs with the power-up was a little bit silly here. So this board is playing a Sniper-based board. They have like Battle Academia plus Sniper for their board. And they actually have a 2-star Varus over there. And that's dangerous, as I said. Varus was overtuned in this patch. They actually have a 2-star Varus, but Varus does not quite manage to snipe the backlines. Look how close this is. Ooh. Where Varus chooses to fire his arrows is a little bit random. Varus could have easily focused the Ziggs and the Sivir in the back line. And his arrows pierce through the front line, so he can kill back line. So that was actually really, really dangerous. All right, there's a spatula on this carousel. There's not really anything ASM can do with it, but he's going to grab it anyway just because he's looking to try to get that Varus 2-star. Now, remember, he's level 8, not level 9, so he doesn't have great odds to see this unit on level 8. He only has 3% odds to see this unit. So I think his better odds would be to go to level 9 and then look to find it there. Could also just play he could go to level 9 and just play the Braum as well. But he's going to reroll for it, and we'll see. I mean, okay, you can take the Zyra out of the pool, but not going to do it. And then he hits it anyway. So, okay, I mean, I guess this was just the game of hitting. And there's nothing to do with this other than make the Soul Fighter emblem, even though that's pretty useless. But, okay, I mean, I guess it's another case of just hits the 2-star Varus anyway. So now it's down to just the Darius player in the lobby, and like this Darius player is dunking the Jarvan, but now that Varus is 2-starred, he doesn't die to a single dunk. Now it requires 2 of them, and okay, Darius is on the Ziggs, and he's going to, oh no, Ziggs did not end up dying there. It was blocked by a protector shield. Yeah, it looks like the board is scaled up to the point now where Darius cannot quite kill this board. There is a Jace. There are 8 Jaces on the other team, so that person is close. And there it is. There's the Jace 3-star. So that definitely makes the board scarier. This is going to be the final round of the game, so ASM should just roll down to 0 gold looking for the Jarvan. Like, he's on 2 HP, the other board's on 9. There will not be another round in this game, so he should just roll down to 2-star, roll down to 0 gold looking for the Jarvan 2-star. There's nothing else he can do. I mean, like, there's no point in saving gold. You can't get any stronger from here. You might as well just grab these. All right, he's going to find a Twisted Fate. And TF is the 5-cost crew member. It's definitely better to play the Varus than that, though. But he can take out the Jarvan and play the TF instead. That's going to put 5 crew in. We're not really going to get to see TF in this game, but that puts 5 crew in. So that's going to give an additional 25% health. Or it gives 25% health and 25% attack speed to the crew units. And TF being a 5-cost is pretty useful as well. He's more kind of a utility 5-cost. Because he gives economic benefits the longer he's on your board. We're not really going to get to see that in this game, but yeah, he's not a bad unit. Anyway, Darius is doing his best. He's going to get off 1 dunk, but he can't get through the Malphite's Protector Shield. And it's a close fight, but Ziggs is going to carry this one. And that's going to wrap it up. So a 9-match winning streak after going down to 2 HP. Very, very fun, very entertaining game here. It was the crew comeback, to be sure. Again, I would say this is not really the scenario to play crew from the position that ASM was in, but it did give us a very entertaining game, and it gave us a good example of like the crew plus strategist setup is what I think I would call this one. It's like the strategist version. There are other versions of crew that you can play as well, but this was a good example of that, and thanks to ASM for giving me this gameplay footage. Well, anyway, once again, thanks for watching, thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed this video. Till next time, take care, folks, and I'll see you again soon.